And if you're on Zoom, we're going to have a very brief gathering after this meeting. We have some other things that we have to do with our Zoom account, so it'll be really only 10 minutes or so, but for you to chat with each other if you'd like. Babs is wonderful about doing that. After church today, we have a Meet the Pastor luncheon for people who are interested in learning more about St. Andrews. If you have RSVP'd, that's great. But if you haven't, that's also great. Please come. We have plenty of food, and we would love to have you here. You'll notice that there's a mixed practice in terms of masks. We welcome whatever makes you feel safe in this crazy time. We know that we just don't know what to expect, and so you are free to wear a mask or not wear a mask, whatever is comfortable for you. Our committee of the week is the wonderful Tech Committee. Let's give everybody a cheer. It's amazing what they do. They would like to build up their group. They have Matt and David and John and like one other person I think who's been helping, and they really need to get a larger group of people to help. They will train you. They were showing me the equipment. It's just amazing. So if you have any interest in that, interest in learning, please stop by the tech booth, which is that area back there. Yes. And they'll love to hear from you. And it would probably be really wonderful if some people would volunteer, because otherwise they're going to get stuck with me. And I and also, we are so pleased today to have Imam Islam Assad with us, and I'll introduce him later. All right. Well, thank you, friends. Welcome, welcome.
Please join me in our responsive reading of our call to be in community. We gather to celebrate the incredible diversity in our world, in nature, in our bodies, in our beliefs. May we ever seek and celebrate the truths discovered along the way. May we gather others' rights to their beliefs and their truths. May our words reflect the yearning of our hearts. And may love's spirit be our guide this day and every day.
please rise as you're able.
And now it's time for the puppet show for the young and the young at heart. And the children and anyone who wants to help them, food donations are on the sides of the aisle there. I'll come help with that too, and we'll put those in the basket.
I learned that from a stable cat.
Good morning. Good morning.
Ready? Hello, everyone. Hello, my dearest friends. How are you all today?
Good. Say, little buddy, what's with that? Is that a pulpit you got there?
Yes, I've decided to add an inspirational moment to the puppet show. I call it Bananas of Gold.
Bananas of gold. What is it?
Well, it's inspirational advice for all the young people. And it has to be true because I'm standing behind a pulpit.
Mr. Monkey, I'm not sure this is such a good idea.
You know, young people of tomorrow, sometimes somebody does you wrong and you want to hit them. But don't hit them. It's much more satisfying if you give them a good bite.
Uh-oh.
Bananas of gold.
Well, no, wait. Now, that's terrible advice. Young people don't bite.
No, don't do that.
Young people, what is something else you could do instead of biting if you're mad or upset? Anything?
Have some cake.
Cake is good. It's also a kind of biting, but sure. But good, yes. Better than biting a person or
Talking, using words instead of biting.
using your words instead of your teeth. Very good.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Taking a deep breath is a great idea.
Well, I guess all of that will do, but frankly, this is why I have a pulpit and none of you do.
Well, Mr. Mackey, standing behind a pulpit doesn't make everything you say true.
Uh-huh. And here's another gem. If you go along life's weary road and you see a puppet who doesn't have any shoes, and you have 2 pair of shoes, hide one of the pair so nobody asks you to share.
Oh,
Bananas of gold.
I don't know, little buddy. I think sharing's a good thing.
Of course it is, Jack. Don't you agree, young people?
Yeah.
It's fun to have toys, but sometimes it's even more fun to share them together. Let's sing a song.
A song of gold.
Okay, this is a song that we did a long time ago, and I barely remember it, but hopefully we can get through this thing together. Ready? The words go, I don't know, but I've been told. So I'll go, I don't know, but I've been told. And you go, I don't know, but I've been told. Love is worth much more than gold. Love is worth much more than gold. And share the world. Share the world. I don't know, but I've been told. Love is worth much more than gold. Love is worth much more than gold. Share the world. Share the world. Yeah. Those are horses' hooves. And it wasn't cheap. It wasn't cheap, ladies and gentlemen. One more time. I don't know, but I've been told. I don't know, but I've been told. Share the word. Share the word. One more time. Share the word. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I thought you'd like that, yeah. It's Mr. Ed's last album.
Since time immemorial, we have gazed into the face of the universe, its blind stare spilling back at us from billions of suns, moons, and stars. Enriched by its mystery, may we find new stories in the skies. May we sense new stories in our hearts. And may we pour the beauty of truth into ourselves and the world around us. Let us come together in whatever reverent manner is comfortable for you. Please take a deep breath in and breathe in the love in this room, wherever you are.
And then breathe out the stress of the week. Breathe in the peace that you long for, and breathe out any special challenges you are facing. As we gather together, we lift up the struggles and challenges of our church family members. We lift up Marilyn, who's recovering from heart surgery and making progress. We lift up Donna, who is recovering from back surgery. We lift up James and Roger and Walter, who are all on hospice care. We also remember the caregivers of each of these people. We remember the family of Darlene Cardenas as they mourn her recent death. We lift up others who are grieving, as well as those who are job hunting. And let us each name our own needs in our hearts. We think also about everyone who has COVID or monkeypox and who has lost someone to these diseases. Help us to know the right way for us to individually deal with the risks involved. And the world has so many challenges. We lift up those in the Ukraine and the war-torn countries. We lift up all who are forced to leave their homes and find safe places elsewhere. We lift up all who struggle with injustice because of the color of their skin or their religion or the people they love or their gender. And we lift up those who are living rough. And we also think of those who are hungry, especially those who we serve in our food pantry. And we thank you for the food drive yesterday that raised so many cans came in. And we are so thankful for that and for all the people who help with our food pantry. And finally, let us pause and be grateful for all the good in our lives. The goodness of nature, the taste of food, the brightness of another's smile, joy on the face of a child, or the beauty of a special song. When we are really sad, let us draw on these things to comfort us. May we never forget that we can hold both sorrow and joy together in our hearts. Authentic lives contain a mixture of both. We are not being punished if we have sorrows. We are simply human. And all this we ask in the many names that we have for you, the Divine One, Allah, or God, or any other names. Amen. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce Imam Islam Musad. He is at the North Austin Muslim Community Center. I knew there was one more word. And we are just delighted that he's here to speak to us today. I have the pleasure of working with him at IACT and calling him a friend. He is the vice president of the IACT board this year. So next year he will be the president. So now you can say that you're ahead of the curve. You already know who the president will be next year. And we are so pleased that he's here. He's attended UT and studied with many learned Muslims, and we welcome him to come and speak with us.
All right. Thank you, Reverend Carol. Thank you, Reverend Rigby, as well, for inviting me. In the first service, I was behind the podium, but I think this service, so I'm not like the monkey behind the podium, I will try to speak from here and interact with you in that fashion. I begin with the name of God, the most gracious and the most merciful. Praises for him and the peace and blessings be upon all of his prophets and messengers, from Adam to Noah to Abraham to Moses to Jesus and to their seal Muhammad. So to start off, just to let you feel the Quran, we're going to look at certain passage from the Quran which has to do with nature. And there are many people, I'm assuming most of you in this room, if not all of you, have the concern over the climate crisis that is taking place. And I think a dimension that is missing sometimes is that nature is the doorway to God, and it's an accessible way to very quickly have the sense of divine within yourself by communing with nature. And so it's not just about the pollution and about the melting of the ice caps, it's also eroding away our accessibility to the divine one. And so to start off, I will recite in Arabic so you can feel what it sounds like in the Quran, and then I'll read the English translation as well. So if you allow me, I'll just sit here. This way it will be more composed for me. We're doing a little bit different than the first time. So we'll recite first in Arabic. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله فالق الحب والنوى إن الله فالق الحب والنوى يخرج الحي من الميت ومخرج الميت من الحي ذلكم الله فأنى تؤفكون فالق الإصباح وجعل الليل سكنا والشمس والقمر حسبانا ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم وهو الذي جعل لكم النجوم لتهتدوا بها في ظلمات البر والبحر قد فصلنا الآيات لقوم يعلمون وهو الذي أنشأكم من نفس واحدة فمستقر ومستودع قد فصلنا الآيات لقوم يفقهون. And the verses carry on in that fashion. I'll just read a translation of the whole passage, and we'll go from there. So in English, and one of the key things to mention when we mention God as He, we don't think of in Islam as God as a male or a female, that He is transcendent beyond gender. But in the Arabic language, you either have he or she. So in this way, we don't want maleness to be associated, or the names of Allah, the names of God, some of them project power and strength, and also they all project kindness, compassion, all at the same time. So the verse is in English, and the word that we use for verse, is that okay if I put here? I don't know about the sacramental. Okay. So I don't know. I don't want to do something I shouldn't be doing. So the words or the word for verse in Arabic is ayah. So ayah literally means a sign. So the universe around us is filled with signs, or ayat would be the plural. But then the Quran itself, each verse is a sign, which is pointing back to either God's grandeur, His beauty, His wisdom, His infinite knowledge. So I will read some of the English, and this way we try to access the meaning, as you heard the feeling, when it talks about nature and how God is the one behind nature and its author. So it says, "It is Allah who causes the seed grain and the date stone to split and sprout." So, this is talking about a person who is looking deeply at that sprouting seedling, right? And contemplating and meditating. And there is this idea of not just meditating within one's own self, but meditating in nature, which is how the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, began his prophetic career, is that he was alone in the cave outside of Mecca in nature, and that is when the angel Gabriel descended upon him and gave him the beginning of the Quran. So it is Allah who causes the seed grain and the date stone to split and sprout. It's very beautiful if you see this and you can imagine this. He causes the living to issue from the dead, and He is the one who causes the dead to issue from the living. That is Allah. It's very interesting. It says, that is Allah. The process of nature, that is Allah. It doesn't mean that Allah is nature, but it means you know Allah through nature. And the example we gave in the previous session was that when you have an artist, you can know the artist through their artwork. Even if you never met that artist, just by studying his art or appreciating her brush strokes and how it comes onto the canvas, that you actually get an insight into that person. So similarly, through nature, we can see Allah as well. Even though Allah is not nature, we see Allah in nature. So it said, فَأَنَّا تُؤْفَكُونَ. So then it says, sometimes I forget that not everybody speaks Arabic. So, but that should be a second language offered in the high schools. I think in some places they do offer it. So it says, that is Allah, then how are you deluded away from the truth? He it is that cleaves the daybreak from the dark. He makes the night for rest and tranquility, and the sun and moon for the reckoning of time. Such is the judgment and ordering of Him, the exalted in power, the omniscient. It is He who makes the stars as beacons for you, that you may guide yourselves with their help. Through the dark spaces of land and sea, we detail our signs for people who know. So again, repeating the word of signs. It is He who has produced you from a single person. Here is a place of sojourn and a place of departure. We detail our signs for people who understand. So the idea is there is the sign, but then whether it's without or within, but then there are those who are in a state of receiving those signs and having the perceptibility to appreciate the signs all around us. Whether it is this congregation or looking out, I can see the trees and the sun, and I understand, of course, that there's photosynthesis going on and there's an electron transport chain. We learn that through science, but it is those people who appreciate the signs who truly understand. It is He who sends down rain from the skies. With it, we produce vegetation of all kinds. From some, we produce green crops, out of which we produce grain, heaped up at harvest out of the date palm and its sheaves, clusters of dates hanging low and near, and gardens of grapes and olives and pomegranates, each similar in kind, yet different in variety. So I implore myself and you all, the next time you have a banana, what was it, golden? Bananas of gold, actually reflect upon that banana a little bit and understand how does it get its color, how does it fill us with its nutrition and where it came from. So this is what makes the human being a human being, is a human being can even write a poem about a banana, but I haven't seen a chimpanzee ever write a poem about a banana. So this is, he will just eat it, or maybe if he doesn't like it, throw it back at you or whatever it is, but it is the fruits around us that we should reflect upon when they begin to bear fruit. Feast your eyes with the fruit and the ripeness thereof. Behold, in these things there are signs for people who believe. Yet they make the jinn. So the jinn, we have to explain what is this. In Islamic cosmology, or the creation of different beings, we believe that there are angels created of light, neither male or female. They were created before the human beings. And there are jinn who were also created before the human beings. Jinn are made out of fire. They are in the unseen world. They can see us, but we do not see them. And then the human being made out of clay and water and so on. In fact, everything living, the Quran says, was created from the water. So here it says, yet they make the jinns equals with Allah, though Allah did create the jinns. And they falsely, having no knowledge, attribute to him sons and daughters. Praise and glory be to him, for he is above what they attribute to him. To him is due the primal origin of the heavens and the earth. How can he have a son when he has no consort? He created all things, and he has full knowledge of all things. That is Allah, your sustainer, your nurturer. Here it says your Lord, but the idea in Arabic is the one who is the same way that a farmer tills his field and manages his crops, that God also, each and every one of us, he is managing our growth as well. That is Allah, your nurturer, your creator. There is no God but he, the creator of all things. Then worship him, and he has power to dispose of all affairs. The last verse, and then we'll go into the talk part of this, which is a very important verse. No vision can grasp him. So even if you were to fill this church with all the best minds, let's say a bunch of clones of Einstein were sitting in here, and the best philosophers that you can imagine from Western and Eastern ways of thinking, and you put them all together for them to conceive who is God, what is God, they would fall short. It says no vision, actually the plural is used, that no combination of visions, no complementary or collective thought about who he is can grasp him. So this is why in Islam you never see any sort of figuratization of Allah, of God, because nothing can grasp him. What you will see if you visit the Muslim world, you will see the arabesque as well as the infinite, or pointing to infinity, the geometric shapes and designs which try to point to the inexpressibility of God, that he is beyond any expression. So to figuratize him, as it is on the Sistine Chapel or so on, that this would limit the true understanding of who God is. No vision can grasp him, but his grasp is over all vision. So anything that we see is within the sight of God. Anything that we know is within the knowledge of God. We can't escape that God is the one, or we say in Arabic, Allah is the one, that all vision is within his vision. He is above all comprehension. The word that is used is he is subtle. So if the presence of God was so overwhelming, then we could not even live our lives in a normal way. We would It's kind of like, and God is above any example, if you're taking an exam and the teacher is right there on top of your head watching you while you're doing the exam, and you have that awareness, you will freeze. So the same way that Allah makes himself imperceptible yet present. For those who have the awareness in their hearts, they can feel that presence, and then it can become overwhelming as well. So, and that is very important in the Sufi tradition, where you mention the name of Allah over and over and over and over until you get into a state, some of them get into a state of bewilderment, not even understanding where they are and who they are, and they get lost in God, so to speak, but in a good way. So he is above all comprehension, yet is acquainted with all things. So those were the verses that we wanted to share today. But now I wanted to talk about how, like, being in nature and communing with nature should reflect and become manifest in how we deal with one another as human beings. And the fundamental quality that we should be expressing is a word in Arabic called rahmah. Rahmah means mercy, means compassion. It connotes a softness and a gentleness. So it's more akin to a mother who has a child within her womb. The womb itself in Arabic, because how we get words in Arabic, we have 3-letter roots, the same way like Hebrew, 3-letter roots by which you can get a plethora of different words. So the 3-letter root of mercy and also of the womb, they come from the same root. So the womb is called rahim. And so the idea of the womb protecting, warmth, nourishment, those are the two most important names of God or Allah in Islam, is Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, which is the infinitely merciful and the ever merciful. The Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, he was known for his compassion and his kindness. Islam spread early on not because of the eloquence. Yes, there is the eloquence of the Quran, which we believe is from God himself, but it was because of the character and compassion of its propagator, that is the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. That he was so merciful, so compassionate, especially with children, especially with animals. He even made it a point to teach his companions how to be in tune with and empathize with even the horses that they ride. So he said, if you're on a journey and your horses are tired, don't sit there and take your horses as talking stools. Get off of your horse. Said, feed the horse and give the horse a drink before you even eat or drink, because it's the one that was tarrying and making that emphasis. So the idea of rahmah, I wanted to focus on a little bit, the mercy and compassion that people need to feel from us. If we are connected with the one who is the most merciful and the most compassionate, then that should be reflected in how we deal with one another. And that is why the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he said, he is not one of us who does not respect the elders and have mercy to the youngsters. So even in the middle of disciplining and teaching, there's this compassion and there's this sensitivity. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and this is 14 centuries ago, he dealt with both the city dwellers as well as the Bedouins who were from the desert. And he said, I came to perfect the best of manners, the best of etiquette. So he was a teacher, similar to Jesus, peace be upon him, being a teacher for these people who at certain time, if you're in the desert, there are very few rules. And so when you come to the city, the Prophet Muhammad had a city called Medina, where he emigrated from Mecca to Medina. So they were in the mosque one day, and a Bedouin man, he came into the mosque, and not realizing the importance and sacredness of it, he was just a simple Bedouin man. He felt the urge to urinate, so he began to urinate in the mosque. The mosque at the time, there wasn't carpets, it was more like ground, like soil and so on, sand. And so the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, wanted to beat him up, to say the least. But the Prophet Muhammad, in his mercy, he said, let him finish. You might harm him. His concern was about that human being before the sacredness of the place is the sacredness of that human being, which is also mentioned in the Quran, the soul which God has made sacred in each and every human being. He said, you might harm him, let him finish. And then he said, just take a few buckets of water and pour it over where he had urinated. And afterwards, he explained to this Bedouin man with gentleness, with compassion, that this is a place of worship, it is not becoming, and so on. So he became educated with love and compassion, not with harshness and brutality, which sometimes you see teachers that use this harshness, and this is not the way of the prophets. And this Bedouin man, it is said that later on in the prayer, he said, "Oh Allah, have mercy on me and mercy on Muhammad, and don't have mercy on anybody else." So then the Prophet, after the prayer, he said, you have constricted something that is vast, which is the mercy of God is something vast. We mentioned in the first session that all of the love and mercy that you see, the grandchildren and the grandparents, and there's so much love and mercy and love between people, all of that is only one part of 100 parts of God's mercy. So all that we see in the world, in this plane, this terrestrial plane, is only one part. Whether it's with human beings or even with animals, the nurturing mother towards her own kind, that is all just one part. So where are the 99 other parts? So the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said the 99 other parts are with Allah. He is saving them for the Day of Judgment, where He will show so much mercy that nobody can imagine. So by being in tune with nature, also in tune with He who is the most merciful, the compassionate, we should reflect that mercy to others. They should feel that softness, should feel that gentleness, should feel that warmth, right? And I will recite another verse or another chapter of the Quran, which is a short chapter, which talks about how there should be congruence between one's worship life and between their life in service of others with love and affection and compassion, and especially those who are closest to them, which is the neighbor. And the idea, it's a prophetic idea going back to Abraham of taking care of the stranger and so on, and that being part and parcel of what it means to be a person of faith. So I will go ahead and recite that for you so you can hear again what the Quran sounds like. So I will go ahead and recite it, and then I'll explain its meaning. Inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يدع اليتيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين فويل للمصلين الذين هم عن صلاتهم ساهون الذين هم يراءون ويمنعون الماعون. All right. So in this chapter of the Quran, a shorter chapter, it said, do you consider the one who denies, if you translate it literally, denies religion, denies that there are higher values, that there is a higher principle by which to live? Who is the one who denies religion? It might say the person who does not do this ritual or that ritual, but it doesn't say that. It says, you will know the one who is a denier by how they treat the orphan. So the one who is harsh to the orphan is actually denying the higher truths of life, of religion, and so on. So it said, فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي, that it is the one who oppresses or is harsh or shuns the orphan, the most vulnerable in society. That is what people of faith should be giving all of their attention to. Those that are unseen. And we even have a word, the marginalized, those on the margins that nobody notices. It's not an easy thing. Maybe some of you have experienced that before, but it's not an easy thing being homeless and hungry. And where you're in the midst of a crowd of people and nobody even notices you. We can see on the streets, and I've seen it with my own eyes, in the streets of the biggest cities of this country, you can have hundreds of people passing by a person who is almost to the point of death. But then there are still people of compassion as well. I remember there was a homeless person, he was just looking at the food in the Whole Foods. He didn't have any money to buy any food. One of the young ladies behind the counter, she gave him a slice of bread and cheese. Right? Something maybe her manager might fire her for, but it's like, no, this is the common human compassion, which points to the higher truths. It's not all of the robes and beards and turbans. That's not what it's about. فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُّ الْيَتِيمَ وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. He doesn't encourage the feeding of the poor person. Said, woe to those who pray. You might say prayer is good. I thought that's what religious people would do, is they would pray. Said, woe to those who pray, who are heedless in their prayer. So in Islam, the word is salah. Salah means to connect with God through certain words and through certain motions. So for example, we have 5 daily prayers. So we have the dawn prayer, early afternoon, late afternoon, sunset, and late night. So when the time for prayer comes, a Muslim will find the direction towards Mecca. Mecca is the city where Abraham and his first son Ishmael built the house of worship called the Kaaba. So maybe another time we can talk about the intersection between Islam, Judaism, and Christianity being Abrahamic faith. But in any case, you would face, in our case, northeast. If you were in India, you would face west, obviously. So then we raise our hands and we surrender, but also in putting everything behind us, and then we stand. And then we recite the Quran, and we stand with the right hand over the left hand. So if I'm really doing this correctly, then the natural outpouring should be one of generosity, magnanimity, should be one of compassion, not the other way around. If I'm done with my prayer and I'm feeling more harshness and hatred and all that, then that means I didn't do my prayer correctly. So it said, stand. Then we have a point where we bow down. We come back up. We go into a prostration. So doing all of this and then coming back up, we do another prostration and we come back up. I did it a little bit faster. If you do it too fast, it looks like aerobics. But that's what we tell the kids, don't go so fast. I remember we were watching the Super Bowl when I was in high school with my friends, and the time for prayer came, and they were like wanting me to hurry up and do your prayer. Let us finish. We want to watch sometimes not the game, but the commercials that would come up. But in any case, if a person does that, and then afterwards, there's no mercy, no compassion, no good feeling towards the rest of humanity in their heart, then something is wrong with that salah. It hasn't been an effective connection. So it's like a phone with its battery that is dead, right? And you're just going through the motions of using your phone, but it's actually dead. So it said, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ. Woe to those who pray, who are heedless in their prayers, those who pray for show. So the idea is, other people will see me praying, then this will exalt my status in their eyes. Well, what will it do in the eyes of God? It will make me less, not more. If I am worshiping the people watching me instead of the one who is watching me, then there is again a disconnect there. And how would you know that there's a disconnect? It said the most neighborly of needs, they're unable to provide it. When your neighbor comes to you and asks you for something, that's a test from God. Are you going to be welcoming to your neighbor? Are you going to be there, whether in the literal sense or the figurative sense, and you're going to be kind to that neighbor and provide for them in the most basic of ways? I'll begin to wrap up with just an example that we can see from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Again, he explained himself as the final brick in the structure of prophethood. So he's not the only brick, he's just the last brick. And if, again, without any offense intended, if there's an Old Testament and a New Testament, the Quran will be the final testament. Right? And so he said, I am the last brick, which makes that perfect structure of prophecy. If we look at all the prophets, for example, Abraham, I'll end with his story instead of one from Prophet Muhammad, but there was a traveler, and so Abraham welcomed him into his tent. And before he gave him food, he said, do you believe in the one God? And the man said, no, I don't. So Abraham said, okay, do not eat with me. Then at that moment, there became an inspiration from God to Abraham, said, why have you repulsed him? Why have you excluded him from your tent? Said, because he doesn't believe in you. He said, he is not believing in me, but I still provide for him day and night for 60 years, 70 years of his life. You cannot be patient with him for even a few minutes. So Abraham, he felt terrible. Peace be upon him. He ran out of his tent, brought him back, and gave him to eat and drink. And that is the most fundamental teaching in all the religions, is about feeding those who are in need. As the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, said, when he came to Mecca, he said to Medina, he said number one, Ifshu salam, spread the greetings of peace amongst you. Right? It's more than just saying, it's hard to get my daughters, they always say hi, what's up, all this. But to say salam, right? Salamu alaykum. You're wishing peace and safety and security to that person. And it should be a heartfelt feeling. And they reciprocate, they say alaykum as-salam, and peace be upon you. So he said, spread that feeling of safety and security, to the point where in many Muslim countries, even till today, you can leave your door open, because there's this sense of safety and security, right, that nobody's going to oppress. It's rare to find nowadays. He said, Ifshu salam, spread the greetings of peace. It'amu ta'am, means literally feed people. Right? I know it's easy to write a check or drop off a donation, but actually be there at the moment. Even if you can, a person who can't eat on their own, help feed them. See what that feels like. You will feel then this is what faith is about. It'amu ta'am, feed people food. Then he said, Sallu bil-layl wan-nasu niyam. Said, pray at night while everybody else is sleeping. So you don't run into the problem of showing off that I'm praying and everybody's watching me pray. No, pray at night. Everybody is sleeping, but you are alone with your beloved at night, right, while everybody else is sleeping. Then he said, Tudkhulul jannata bisalam. So then you will enter paradise with ease. So spread the greetings of peace, feed people, pray at night while others are sleeping. You will enter paradise with ease. Thank you all. And I hope that the change up didn't throw anybody off. I wish you all the best and look forward to seeing you around the great city of Austin. Austin, in my opinion, is number 4. Mecca is number 1. Medina is number 2. Jerusalem is number 3. And Austin, Texas is number 4. So thank you all.
It's our tradition to pause for a minute to ponder what we've heard. In our time of offering, let's be mindful first of all our blessings. Take a moment and think about the blessings that are yours and those around you. Think of the ways that out of our bounty of our lives is what we give back to make the world a more just and compassionate place. Resources are certainly a part of that, but the main thing is to give of our whole selves to make a better world. For those of you who are worshiping by Zoom or looking at a YouTube video, there are links close by if you can afford it and care to contribute to the ministries of St. Andrew's. But as the baskets are passed and as Marilyn sings, let's think about the beautiful things that are ours and how we can give back. Will the ushers please come forward?
Sing anyway, Gloria Munda, glorious life, glorious love, glorious word. Sing anyway, Gloria Munda, glorious life, glorious love, glorious word. Days are way too short by far, and our dreams of peace may be reachable within our brief lifetimes. Peace and justice is a journey full of gifts, can still live life with joy deep inside. Sing anyway, Gloria Munda, glorious life, glorious love, glorious world. Sing anyway, Gloria Munda, glorious life, glorious love, glorious world. We plant a grove of trees today for our children. Sing anyway, Gloria Munda, glorious life, glorious love, glorious world. And if you feel discouraged by how much work must still be done to bring a burdened, kinder world to all, don't forget to take some comfort that you walk a holy road. Tune your heart to hear your human family's call. And sing anyway, Gloria Munda, glorious life, glorious love, glorious world. Sing anyway, Gloria Munda, glorious life, glorious love, glorious world. Glorious life, glorious love, glorious world.
Please join me in our offering dedication. We are made for the life of love, and we join as one to be stronger than when we are separate. May our giving be from the whole of our lives for the advancement of the beloved community. We dedicate our offering to support the ministries of St. Andrew's and for the possibilities we can achieve together. Please rise as you're able.
Well, I hope that you have appreciated the last 2 weeks. We had the Zen Buddhist priest last week. We have the wonderful Imam Islam today. There's a sense in which if you only speak one language, you don't really know what language is. You think the universe divides up into your verbs and nouns, and that's very, very disappointing in life. In the same way, if you only know one religion, I don't think you even know that one. Right? If you have to bring up Jesus all the time, I don't think you understand what he was talking about in the first place. So listening to other great, deep souls really enriches it, brings us to our own roots, but doesn't trap us there. It takes us deeper. So again, thank you, Imam, and we're going to give him the last word. He'll give us a blessing. But before that, thank you for all the people that made this possible, the tech team, the music team, all the people that set up things and helped us. If you're online after this service, Babs will be doing a kind of gathering. We have an embarrassment of riches today. We'll be standing out front for a little while, and then we have a gathering after that it's called Lunch with the Pastor, or Greet the Pastor, but it's a lot more than that. There's a lot of people that you'll be meeting. There's lots of food. We've got a bunch of people that are talking about joining, which is great, but if you're just curious or you just want free food, that's all it takes. Also tonight, we're doing our 7 o'clock Partners in Preaching. So if you'd like to talk more about the wonderful experience of hearing the depths of Islam and it's sounding very familiar, unless you convert to Islam today, then just leave with the Imam. So thank you for being here. If you would give us a parting blessing.
In the name of the one God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, we ask you to make this a gathering of mercy and compassion, that we ask you that you put light in our hearts and light on our right side, light on our left side, light in front of us, light behind us, light above us, light beneath us. We ask you to make us a light. We ask you that you make this a gathering filled with mercy, compassion, softness, gentleness, warmth, and that you do not make any one of us present here to leave in a state of deprivation or in a state of being miserable. We ask you in all of your most beautiful names. Assalamu alaikum.